Hey everybody, in this video I'll be playing Stargrave's The Botched Deal scenario, which will be the first battle for my Stargrave campaign. Hey everybody, I'm Alan, with Bricks and Blocks Gaming, the channel that plays tabletop games using toy bricks and blocks and discusses the rules and strategies to build the foundation for those games. For the Botched Deal scenario, the crew of the Hope Rising is facing off against the crew of the Crash Override as I start my Stargrave campaign. I've linked my campaign introduction video in the description box below, and you'll want to watch that before this video, as it introduces my captains and first mates, giving important story elements about their pasts and their current missions. And it also explains some important information about how I play Stargrave. In this video, I'll be sharing the stats, powers, and gear that my officers for this battle have selected. I'll show the crews they've recruited, give a customized story introduction for the scenario, then I'll start the battle. General Basu, the captain of the Hope Rising, is a veteran, which gives him +1 health, +1 fight, and he's chosen to upgrade his fight stat a second time. His powers are Armoury, Coordinated Fire, Target Designation, Command, and Toxic Secretion. He's equipped with a rapid fire, hand weapon, knife, grenades, and wears heavy armor. His first mate, Gol'Bloth, is a Psionicist, which gives him +2 will and +1 health, and he's increased his fight stat by +1. His powers are Break Lock, Lift, Suggestion, and Heal. And he's equipped with a carbine, hand weapon, knife, and grenades, but wears no armor. Aiding them in their cause are a gunner, a sniper, a codebreaker, a Chisler, a sentry, a trooper, a recruit, and a runner. The priority of these freedom fighters is to obtain physical loot so they can gather the supplies they need to achieve their ultimate goal of preserving life. System Crash, the captain of the Crash Override, is a Tekker, which gives him +2 will, and he's also increased his health and fight stats by +1. His powers are Data Knock, Data Jump, Transport, Holographic Wall, and Haggle. He's equipped with a flamethrower, hand weapon, knife, grenades, and wears heavy armor. His first mate is Override, a robotics expert, which gives him +1 will, and he's increased his fight and shoot stats both by +1. His powers are Remote Firing, Rewire Robot, Repair Robot, and Coordinated Fire. He's equipped with a rapid fire, hand weapon, knife, and heavy armor. For story purposes, Override is a robot, but for gameplay, he won't get any of the benefits or penalties for being a robot because officers can't be robots in Stargrave. And with his out-of-game robotics skills, he's actually just helping System Crash with those. Recruited from System Crash's home planet to help them are a sniper, a casecracker, a hacker, 2 troopers, and a runner. And System Crash has built 2 robot sentries to help them as well. The priority of these scavengers is to try to always collect 3 loot tokens, regardless of the impact on their crew. So now, let's get to the bricks and blocks of the Botched Deal scenario for Stargrave. A distress message was received by General Basu and the crew of the Hope Rising. Although the source was unknown, the group of freedom fighters decided they should investigate the call for help to see what aid they could provide. Having tracked the signal to an abandoned research facility on the rocky planet of Kraldor, but being suspicious of the authenticity of the message, a scouting party was sent to survey the area. Not long after, blaster fire erupted. After a short firefight broke out, the scouts fled back to their ship, but one of them was hit and left behind. The ambush, set by System Crash and the crew of the Crash Override, was an attempt to steal supplies from who they'd assumed would be just a ragtag band of travelers. But their simple plan was foiled as they realized this is a well-organized group of hardened survivors here in the wastes of Stargrave. Nevertheless, System Crash's reckless desire to loot and scavenge means he is willing to face the resistance of the Hope Rising's crew. Meanwhile, General Basu refuses to leave his injured crew member dying on the battlefield. As both teams prepare to move full force into the ruins of the research facility, they realize their transmissions must have been picked up by the dreaded space pirates that control the galaxy, throwing further troubles into the situation. The Botched deal begins. My board is set up, but before we take a look at it, we're going to roll for sides for this battle. System Crash will be the orange die, and General Basu's team will be the purple die. Highest number chooses their side, and that will go to System Crash. I've got my dice tray set up here. My plan is to have the crew of the Crash Override always use the left side with their die, and the crew of the Hope Rising always use the right side, just to help you, the viewer, see more quickly which die result goes to which team. Next up for these crews is to roll their before-game powers. The book doesn't specifically say when during the pre-game activities you do this, other than just before the game starts, but I'd recommend to do it before you deploy any figures, because sometimes it can affect your deployment. The only before-game power that this team has is Rewire Robot, which Override will activate on a 16. And you're not allowed to exert to increase the rolls of out-of-game powers. Alright, he got exactly the 16 that he needed. And he'll use that power to increase his shotgun and chainsaw-wielding sentry's fight stat to +4, which will also reduce his will stat to -1. For General Basu's out-of-game spells, Gol'Bloth has no out-of-game spells, but Basu has Toxic Secretion on a 14 and Armoury on a 10. He'll start with Toxic Secretion on a 14. He failed that, and then Armoury on a 10. And he got that. He'll use that ability to give his sniper +1 damage with his carbine for this battle. So here is my board with my crews deployed, with the crew of the Crash Override here and the crew of the Hope Rising over here. One thing I want to point out for anyone that comes from Frostgrave is that in Frostgrave you place all the loot tokens or treasure tokens and then you deploy. But in Stargrave, you deploy and then the loot tokens are placed. So I will be doing that here shortly. One other thing that's different is in Frostgrave, you can deploy within 3 inches of the edge of the board, but in Stargrave, it's only 2 inches. I just want to show off my loot tokens. These will be my physical loot, kind of boxes that have to get broken into, and these will be my data loot, more of computers and things that have to be hacked into. Coming from Frostgrave, in that game, centralized treasure tokens are kind of extra special, but unless I miss something, in Stargrave they aren't. So I had already made kind of fancy looking centralized loot tokens, so I will be using those if it calls for a physical or a data loot token. But then instead of having to carry this whole box around with them, basically if they get a physical loot, they've packed it up into a bag that will follow them around, and if they get a data loot, they've just got one of these to represent that they've got it stored onto their electronic device of some sort. And then I'll just leave those on the board just so they stay there looking cool. And one thing special I'm doing in this battle is I'm going to be replacing one of the physical loot tokens with a wounded soldier. This is the scout for the Hope Rising that was wounded as they tried to scout out the area. He'll count as a physical loot token, so basically his team's trying to get to him, secure his wounds, and then get him off the battlefield, while the other team is just trying to get to him and take his loot from him. This battle calls for ruffians to start on the board, and some may show up as the battle goes on, and so I will be using my space pirates, and they will be using the white die for all of their roles in the game. Taking a look at my board, we have a data loot token here that's guarded by one ruffian, another data loot token here. This scenario calls for a physical token to be the centralized token, and that is right there. It's called to be put in a room right there. We've got another ruffian over here next to the loot token or the injured soldier, and the other physical loot token there. This scenario also calls for 6 buildings to be placed around the kind of in a circle. So I've got those 6 structures there. And now we'll take a look at deployment. For the crew of the Crash Override, here they've got their sniper next to Override, their robotics expert first mate. Then here they've got the recently rewired robot. He's a sentry with a shotgun. And then they have a trooper that also has a shotgun. They've got System Crash there next to a hacker, a runner back there. In front of him is their Case Cracker, another trooper, and another robot sentry there. For the crew of the Hope Rising, over here they have their sniper that has the +1 damage carbine due to the Armoury power being used on him. Next to him is Gol'Bloth, the Psionicist, and then they've got a recruit. Then over here they've got General Basu, the veteran. Behind him is their robot Chisler, and then their Codecracker, their gunner, their runner. Then over here they have a sentry with a shotgun and a trooper with a carbine. The general strategy for System Crash and his team are to focus more on data loot, but also to always try to get 3 loot tokens without much regard to the health and safety of their team. The general goal of General Basu and his team are to focus on physical loot tokens so they can get more supplies, and to also focus on preserving the health of their team. They're here to save lives, not lose them, so they're less of risk takers than the other teams. One last bit of housekeeping is that, as well as using my brick-themed measurement system, I will also be doing most of my measurements off camera. This is just a little easier when I'm trying to hold a camera and move my figures. With normal miniatures, you can just set them in place on their bases, but with Legos, you got to kind of click them into place, so it gets a little awkward trying to hold a bunch of stuff. So it's easier to measure off camera and then just show where they've moved to. Initiative for the first round goes to General Basu's team. General Basu over here will start things out by activating with his Codebreaker. He's going to do a standard activation, not a group activation with him, so that is 2 different things. And he's going to start out by using his coordinated fire ability on his gunner. This activates on a 10 and 18, so he's got +1 shoot with that rapid fire for the rest of the game. Then General Basu will take a 3-inch power move. Now, one interesting thing with power moves is that it just says it's a 3-inch move. It is affected by things that reduce your movement in half, like carrying physical loot or going over rough ground or climbing, but it doesn't say that your actual move stat affects it. So even though he's wearing heavy armor and only has a move of 5, as near as I can tell, he still gets a 3-inch power move. And then after that, he'll use his second action to move. And also, normally a second movement action would reduce your movement by half, but a power move doesn't count against your movement like that. So he'd still have another 5 inches, which will put him right there. Then the Codebreaker is just going to do a double move through here into this ruined building, 9 inches to there. System Crash over here is going to activate with his sentry, his trooper, and his hacker. And he'll start by having these 2 soldiers. They're both going to move up underneath this structure. Their 7.5-inch double moves gets them to right there. And then we will have the hacker. He is going to run right in front of System Crash here and run over to here on a double move. For System Crash, since power moves can be done either before or after the power is done, he's going to start by moving 5 inches over to here and then use his 3-inch power move to get right here by this hacker. And then he is going to use his transport power. This activates on a 10 and it has a strain of 1. That is a 4. He fails by 6. He'll let that fail. He takes the 1 point of damage from strain. Gol'Bloth over here is going to activate with the sniper, and he'll start by sending the sniper over here. And from right there, he can see that pirate ruffian down there. He's close enough to this building that I'll call that light cover. Ruffians usually have +2 fight, but the sniper moved and there's light cover, so it's +5 against +4 shoot. That is a 13. Against armor 9, that'd normally be 4 damage, but that sniper rifle has that +1 damage, so that is 5 damage against the ruffian, which stuns him. He's at 5 health. And I'll be laying the figures down on their stomach if they are stunned, and I'll lay them on their back if they're actually fallen in combat. Gol'Bloth will then run right up here, and from there he will use Break Lock on the loot token soldier, essentially a long distance heal since that's a wounded soldier. Break Lock activates on a 14. He got that with an 18. There is 1 strain for that, so he takes 1 point of damage. And now that wounded soldier is available to be helped off the battlefield. And since that power unlocked a loot token, they won't get experience points for the power that they used, but they will get experience points for unlocking a loot. Then Gol'Bloth will use his power move to move between his friends here and into this corner. Override here will then activate by himself, and he will use his coordinated attack power on the sniper. Activates on a 14. He got that. I guess the ability is called coordinated fire, not coordinated attack. And then he'll power move and regular move, a total of 8, up to right there. For Basu's remaining soldiers, they'll start with having their trooper and their sentry move over here. And that'll put them right here over by their general. Over to this group, their runner is going to run 10.5 inches up here by these little crystalline rock formations. And then their runner, or their gunner, and their Chisler are both going to run inside here. So that puts them right up here. And lastly, their recruit is going to just run up here behind their sniper so that he might be able to group activate with Gol'Bloth if needed. For System Crash's soldiers, they'll start with having this sniper with his extra shoot run right up here on a double move so he can activate with override next turn. And then over here to these 4 soldiers, they will have this runner and their Codecracker run up here, and they can get right up here on their double moves. Actually, we'll have the trooper with his carbine run this way on a double move, and then the sentry, who also has a carbine, will run right over here on his double move. To the ruffian phase, this ruffian here cannot see any figures, so it'll go to its target point, which is the nearest loot token. So I'll just turn him around so he looks like he's actually trying to crack into that computer there, figure out what is left over at this abandoned station. And then we'll go over to this ruffian here. Since he's stunned, he will automatically stand up when he activates, and then at that point he is limited to 1 action. And he is going to fire back at the sniper who shot at him, and the sniper has hard cover here behind this wall. I actually just realized this ruffian is just equipped with a pistol, which only has a range of 10 inches, and this sniper is beyond that, so the ruffian cannot shoot at him from there. Looking at the creature action section in the rulebook, since this figure is armed with a ranged weapon, it says that they would shoot at a figure that is within range and then do nothing with their second action. But it doesn't say what they do if they can see a figure, but the figure is not within the range of their weapon. So I am going to say that the figure will just move with its first action to get to a spot where they can shoot that figure, and then if they are within range, use their second action to shoot, rather than just stand there out in the open. Just for fun, I'll give them some extra brains instead of just beelining it towards the target, he's going to come over here, take cover behind this barrel here. For this battle, at the end of every turn, I'm going to be rolling on the Unwanted Encounters table. So I roll a d20 and add the turn number to it. So that will be this +1. So a 4, and we need at least a 15 for something to pop up. Initiative for the next round goes to System Crash's team this time. System Crash is going to activate by himself and use the transport power on this hacker here. Activates on a 10, a 3, and there's a 1 strain to that, so he takes 1 point of damage. After yet another failure to use his power, he'll do a power move and a regular move up to here. And then System Crash will have some light cover there against that building. And then we'll go over here to General Basu, who will activate with this trooper. And Basu will start out by using coordinated fire on the trooper. Activates on a 10, an 11, so he now has +1 to shoot. And then on his power move plus his regular move, he'll go 8 inches over to here, taking cover next to that building. And then this trooper will run over here next to him, and he will fire his carbine at that ruffian. The trooper's now a +4, but he moved, so the ruffian has a total of +3 fight against this. He just barely wins with a 21, so good thing he used that coordinated fire. That does 12 damage. That ruffian was already down to 5 health, so he goes down. We'll put him on his back to let us know he is actually fallen in combat, not just stunned. Override is going to activate with the sniper here, and the sniper will go first and run up against the building here. And from there, he will take a +5 shot against that ruffian. He moved, so the ruffian's got a +3 defense against +5 shoot. And again, coordinated fire pays off because that's a 23 to a 22. That is 14 points of damage. He only had 10 health, so that ruffian didn't see it coming and gets sniped right in the back. Override is then going to move 5 inches over here, then activate a power, so he'll do a power move next. Tuck himself in there against that kind of tree/rock outcropping. And coordinated fire seems to be working well, so he is going to use coordinated fire on this trooper with the shotgun there. On a 14, he gets a 16. Override seems to be a lot more reliable in this battle than System Crash with the powers, but we'll jump over here to Gol'Bloth, who will activate with the Codecracker, the sniper, and the recruit, and he'll start by having the Codecracker run over here to try to unlock this data loot. Unlocking loot has a target number of 14. He's got +2 will to this and +6 for carrying a data pad, so a total of +8. And he definitely broke into that computer. So physical loot can automatically be picked up, but data loot requires an action to pick it up. So that's just going to sit right there waiting for someone to pick it up. Then the sniper is going to run down here on a single move, right up against that wall where he can see this sniper. He actually has to poke his head out to do that, and he's going to take a shot at this sniper. This is a hasty shot because he moved, and the targeted sniper has light cover up against that building. So altogether, it's a +6 defense against +4 shoot. And the shot wins. That is a 18, and that carbine is dealing +1 damage this battle, so that is a total of 9 damage against that enemy sniper. So that brings him down to 5, so he's not wounded, but he is stunned, so he is going to duck for cover right there. And then this recruit over here is going to run over and pick up this data loot token. Then Gol'Bloth is going to use his move action to come around here out in the open for the moment, and then he will use lift on the data carrying recruit there. He needs a 12 for lift, and he only got a 3. Then Gol'Bloth will just run for cover over here with his power move. Now to the crew of the Crash Override. They'll start with having their Codecracker run over here to right there, and he'll try to break open that box. With his will and his picks, he has a +8 to this, target number 14, and that is busted open. Right, and he can choose to automatically take hold of that, and he will do that. So he is carrying that treasure. Loot, I suppose. Then over here, we'll jump to their trooper that's down here, who's got the shoot +1 now. He's going to run up here next to Override. And from right there, he can see down here to the ruffian carrying that data loot. The trooper moved, and the recruit is basically in light cover up against that. So he'll have a +3, as well as his normal +2 against +4 shoot. So total +5, that's a 6, so 11. That's against 23. It takes 13 points of damage. And he falls in combat, and that data token is now unclaimed. And since that was a shotgun, that was actually 1 more damage, but it doesn't really matter. Then the sentry down here is going to come over on the other side of Override. And from there, it will fire its shotgun at the Codecracker there. Codecracker is normally +3. There's 1 piece of intervening terrain, and it's a hasty shot. So it's +5 against +2 shoot this time. But that is still a hit. That is a 20 with +1 damage. So that puts it. That's 11 damage, puts him down to 3. So he is stunned. Oops, knocks his helmet off apparently. This hacker up here is going to just double move over here in front of System Crash. Over here, this trooper will run over here behind these barrels. And the sentry over here will run up here. Then the runner is going to double move over here, climb through this window, and can get just into contact with the central physical loot token. To the soldiers of the Rising Hope, they'll start with having their runner run over here, and she can just barely get into contact with their wounded soldier here that they're trying to get off the table. So she will secure him, I suppose. Then their gunner will run over to here. And from there, he is going to fire at this hacker and at the trooper there. Against the hacker first, the gunner is shoot +4 because of coordinated fire. The hacker's right out in the open, but gets a +1 for hasty shot. So that is a +4 against +2. And the hacker blocks that. Against the trooper, this is a +4 against +3 for the same reasons. And that unfortunately misses as well. Then over here to this sentry, he is going to double move over here. And lastly, this robot in here, he is a Chisler. He will run up here. All the uncontrolled ruffians have been defeated. End of turn, we roll a d20 to see if anything pops up. There's a +2 to this. 7, nothing this turn. We'll roll for initiative for the next turn. We've got 3 to 2. Now, one of the special rules for this scenario is whenever a player rolls a 1 to a 4, they get to place a ruffian on any corner. So both players will be doing that this turn. And after looking over the scenario rules, the ruffians are actually placed adjacent to one of the buildings. So System Crash placed one right here, and it doesn't say they can't be in combat. So he's placed in combat with that sniper. And then over here on this building right here, a ruffian is placed there in combat with that trooper. I think that thematically it was supposed to imply that the ruffians jump out of the buildings, but all of my buildings are kind of ruined buildings that they wouldn't really be hiding in. But oh well, maybe they just dropped down from their dropship or something. We'll go over here to General Basu, who will activate with all 3 of these crew members next to him. And the first thing they'll do is have this trooper here fire his carbine at that runner, and that runner has light cover there. That gives the runner +4 defense against +3 shoot, and the runner defends that. Then the trooper is going to run around here to get into combat with the runner, and then this sentry here is also going to run in over here and then attack with his second move. So with support, the sentry is +5 against +2. And the runner gets a critical hit. That's a 22 +5 damage. That's 16 points of damage against that sentry, and he goes down. And seeing that this is turning into kind of a complete ambush here, General Basu is going to start having his men try to clear out of the battlefield. He'll have this robot here come over here on a single move and pick up this data loot token. Then he's going to use the command ability on this runner over there that's trying to help that wounded soldier off the board. Activating on a 10, you got a 20, all right. Since physical loot slows a figure down by half, normally she could double move 10.5, but she can only go 5.25, which will get her right over here with the wounded soldier. I suppose that I actually should have finished Basu's action before I activated her. So his other thing he was going to do was then use his action and his power move to run over here. I was thinking that that made them activate immediately, but it's just command makes them activate during that phase. System Crash over here will activate with his hacker and his trooper, and he'll start by having his trooper do a single move up to here, and from there he can take a shot at this Chisler that's carrying this data loot token with 1 piece of intervening terrain and hasty shot. That gives the robot +3 defense against +4 shoot with coordinated fire, and that is a 16 against 10 armor. That is 6 damage, and he is stunned. That's actually 7 points of damage because that was a shotgun. Then to this hacker over here, he can climb over these barrels and get just here with his regular move, even with the obstructions there, and he is going to try to hack into this computer. He's got a +7, target number of 14. That is a 15, so he hacks into that. System Crash is then going to attempt transport once more on this sentry there. Activated on a 10. He'll exert himself for 3 to make that finally work. There's also 1 point of strain, so he takes 4 total damage there. He's going to move him over here. With transport, the figure has to remain in line of sight. But he'll bring him right over here so that he can activate with override there. Over to the first mate phase, Gol'Bloth here will activate with this gunner. He's just within range, and the gunner is going to fire on this trooper here. The trooper defends with a +2 fight against a +4 shoot due to coordinated fire. That's only a 10. It does deal +2 damage, so that deals 1 point of damage against the trooper. After that weak shot, the gunner will stay where he is, and then Gol'Bloth will run over here. And from there, he is going to try to use lift on the Chisler that's carrying that loot token. He needs a 12. He gets an 8. He will exert himself for 4 to make that work. That will move the Chisler right over here. He's still stunned, I believe, so he'll stay laying down. With lift, the loot token does travel with them. With transport, it does not. Override, hanging out here by this rocky outcropping, will activate with both of these robot sentries, and they'll send the chainsaw-wielding one in here. That'll put him into combat with this enemy trooper, and then he will attack with support, and he is the sentry that's been rewired with extra fight. So that makes him a +6 attack against +2 defense. But the human, they're 1, so that is 16 against 15. So the trooper will push the sentry out of combat, so he's only engaged with just that runner. So the sentry's just pushed a little further into the house there, the building, and then this other sentry is going to run over here against the corner of this building, and then he will fire a shot at this gunner. The gunner has light cover there, and it's a hasty shot. That's a +6 defense against only a +2 shot. And the shot misses. Override will then activate a power move to move 3 inches over to here. Then he is going to use remote firing on this sentry. This is on a 12, 15, that succeeds. That causes a +3 shooting attack to come from that robot to an eligible target, so he will fire on the gunner. The gunner has light cover, so he is a +5 against +3 shoot. That is a 16. So the gunner takes 5 damage, bringing him down to 9, and he is stunned. Then Override will use his standard move action to move right over here behind this hacker. To the crew phase, the crew of the Hope Rising will have this sniper attack this recruit, or ruffian. That's a +3 fight against +2 for the ruffian. Alright, that's a 20 against 18. That is 11 damage. So that ruffian goes down, and then the sniper is going to run over to the other side of Basu over here against this wall. And their last crew member to activate is this wounded Codecracker. Now he's stunned and wounded, so when he activates, it doesn't actually take an action to stand back up. It just, when you're stunned, you are reduced to a maximum of 1 action. So he will still have another action even though he's wounded, and he is just simply going to start running away, and he'll go 6 inches down here by Gol'Bloth. To the crew of the Crash Override, starting down here with this Codecracker, he is going to do a half move over to here with his bag of goodies. Then this trooper here is going to fight this ruffian. So this is a +2 against +2, and that is a 14 for the crew member. He'll elect to just stay in combat, and then we'll go into this room, and the runner will attack this trooper. Again, this is a +2 against +2, and we have that. That's a 1 strong runner there. That is a 17, and he will also choose to stay in combat. Then we'll move over here to this stunned sniper. He will stand up when he activates, and then use his single action to run over here next to System Crash down there. For the ruffians phase, this ruffian will attack that trooper there. This is a +2 against +2. And we have the ruffian winning that time with a 13 against 11 armor. That's 2 damage. We'll check for unwanted attention at the end of the round. +3, that is an 18. So an 18 is a pirate trooper, and based on the direction of that roll for the monster, pointed right at this edge, so that is where he will pop up. We'll roll initiative for the next round, and we've got System Crash's team going first, but with this 3, that means that the crew of the Rising Hope get to place a ruffian on the board. So another ruffian appears, and General Basu's team will put it right here next to this loot token so that they cannot pick that up until that ruffian is defeated. System Crash over here will start out by activating with this sniper, and he's going to send the sniper back around over to here. So on his second action, he can shoot that ruffian. Since he's kind of right at that corner, I'll say that the ruffian has light cover there. So the sniper is a +5 against +5 with cover and hasty shot. And the ruffian blocks that. Then System Crash is going to do a single move out here, 5 inches to right there, and then he is going to use the transport ability on this trooper on a 10. All right, success. And he'll move that trooper straight across over to here so that he can activate with Override. The Tekker will then power move over here against this building, and then over to General Basu. They don't really want to leave any of their soldiers on the board, but they've got a lot of injured soldiers, and staying here, being kind of overrun, isn't going to be helping anybody. So they're going to work on trying to get out of here. Basu's going to activate with this sniper, and he's going to start out by doing a single move over to here. And from there, he is going to attempt to use the target designation ability against that trooper down there. This activates on an 8 and 11. That's successful. Then the sniper is going to run over here in front of General Basu. And now that that trooper has that target designation on him, he has a -2 to all fighting rolls against shooting attacks. The sniper will attack with +4. The trooper is normally fight +2, but with target designation that's 0. But it's a hasty shot, so he does have a +1. It doesn't really matter because the sniper just got a 23, which is, since the sniper's carbine has +1 damage, that's a total of 13 damage against 11 armor. He has 12 health, so that pirate trooper goes down. To the first mate phase, Override here is going to use the remote firing ability. Successful on a 10. He needed a 12, and he will exert for 3, so that is successful. So Override is going to have this robot here do a +3 shooting attack. He wants to have him shoot the Codecracker down here, who's wounded. However, there is one soldier in between them. In Frostgrave, this figure would just simply count as intervening terrain, causing a -1 or a +1 to his defense roll. But in Stargrave, if a figure would be counted as intervening terrain, you cannot target your intended target. So you'd have to target this guy instead if he wanted to. So that's what he's going to do. He's going to target this stunned gunner there. So that's a +3 shooting attack against a normal fight +3, then +2 more for being stunned. But it doesn't matter. That is a critical hit. This gunner goes from stunned to fallen in combat. And then Override is just going to move over here into combat with this ruffian so they can try to take him out so they can grab that data loot that's underneath him. Seeing things are becoming more and more dire here, Gol'Bloth is going to activate with the runner, the Codecracker, and the Chisler, and he will start by having the Chisler activate. He's still stunned from earlier, so he'll stand up, and then he has one action, which he will use to run over here with his data loot. Then the wounded Codecracker will run over here. And then their runner, carrying the wounded soldier on a double move at half speed, can get to right there. Then Gol'Bloth will do a power move over to right here, and then he is going to use lift on the runner. This is successful on a 12, 19, so success. And that will move her 6 inches, up to 6 inches, but she'll go right up here behind their droid, and he will come with her. And then Gol'Bloth will do his second action to move right there. For the soldier phase, this trooper will activate and run over here next to this ruffian. And with the support of the first mate, he will attack. The support gives him a +4 against +2. That's a 14, dealing 5 points of damage. And I seem to keep forgetting that troopers carry a dagger, not a hand weapon, so that's actually only 4 damage. Then this hacker will just take a step forward into combat and attack with double support. So he's a +5 against +2. But that's a 12. That is 2 more damage with his dagger. That reduces the ruffian to 4 health, meaning he is now wounded. Then we'll go over here to this robot sentry, and it's going to take a shot at the Codecracker down there that is wounded. Even though there's fallen soldiers here, technically, once a figure reaches 0 health, they're supposed to be removed from the board. I just leave them there just to show the casualties from battle. So they are not intervening terrain, but this is. So just 1 piece of intervening terrain. So he is a +2 shoot against +2 with all the modifications there. The Codecracker still dodges the shot though. He will then run over here. He can't quite get into combat because he's only got 5 move. He wants to add some support here, but that's just not going to happen. Then this guy in this house here with the chainsaw is going to move into combat. He'll attack with support, so he's a +6 against +2. And that's an 11, but that is a 20 for that trooper that's kind of been left behind there. With his dagger, that is 8 damage against the enemy sentry. He'll then push this wounded sentry out of combat. He's down to 2 health. And then the runner in there will attack without support. +2 against +2. And the runner strikes again with an 18. That will leave the trooper wounded with 2 health points left. And at this point, System Crash's team is more concerned with trying to get some of this loot than take down his opponent. So this runner is just going to push out of combat and tell the trooper to get out of there before they change their mind. And then we'll go over here. This trooper is going to attack the recruit, or the ruffian. It's a +2 against +2. And the trooper gets a 19. That ruffian was down to 4, so he goes down. Then the trooper will run over here next to System Crash. This case cracker over here will run over here on a double move. Now that all the soldiers have activated, we go to the creature phase. The ruffian here will attack the hacker because the hacker has the fewest health. With that ruffian being wounded, that's a +0 against +5 with all the support. That is a 17. That takes him down. At the end of the turn, we'll see if any unwanted attention shows up. And we get a 14 + 4 is 18, which is another pirate trooper. And the direction of the die is pretty much the same direction of where that last one fell, maybe a little closer. So apparently he didn't actually get taken down, and he gets back up. Shows up right there. At this point, I think I'm just going to call the battle. All the figures over here on this next turn would be able to run off the board, securing 2 loot tokens. Over here, this 1 loot token, data token that's on the ground, one of these figures would be able to pick that up and secure it. Over here, this physical loot, that soldier would be able to get that off the board this turn. In the middle, since System Crash decided that they're just going to let this trooper go, they've got plenty of soldiers over here that one of them would probably end up breaking into that central loot token this turn to secure that treasure. They could change their mind and fight that trooper, but they run the risk of losing one of their own figures. So, for story purposes, they'll just loot that soldier and let him go. System Crash's team did pretty well in that battle. They secured a physical loot and a data loot, and then I'm saying that they would have cracked open this physical loot and acquired a second physical loot token. Their runner-up there did awesome in hand-to-hand combat, and some of their shooters did really well to take out some of their opponents, and none of System Crash's members fell in that battle. Since there's no survival rolls to be made, next we will do after-game powers. And I believe the only after-game power in the core book is Haggle, which System Crash has, so he will attempt that on a 12. And he got a 13, so he will be able to make use of that power. For experience, the crew of the Crash Override gets 30 for showing up in battle. They get 60 for 6 successful powers that they used. And they get 60 for 20 for each loot token that they unlock. They defeated 3 of the ruffians for 5 experience points each. And they reduced 3 of their opponent's health to 0, getting them 30 experience for a total of 195 experience points, so 5 points shy of 2 levels there. And since System Crash kept canceling the transport power, he's going to increase his level to 16 and lower the activation number for that down to 9. Next up is determining their loot. I will have the orange one be the data loot, and they've got a 14, a 17, and a 6. Starting with the data loot, this 6 is D20 times 20 credits, and 15 times 20 is 300 credits. And with these are an advanced technology on the first table and an advanced technology on the second table. We'll roll them together here. 4 on the first and 6 on the second. So that is a nano surgery kit, and this is jet boots. System Crash is going to go ahead and sell that nano surgical kit that he found for 120, and since he successfully used Haggle, he gets 20% bonus on that, so 24 combined with the 300 other that they found and the 5 credits that they had saved up. They'll use 400 of it to go shopping. In Stargrave, there are 4 random items that are available at the end of every battle, and I rolled those off screen, but one of them was the Holographic Projector, which gives him +1 to all of his rolls to activate a holographic wall. And then the jet boots they found, they gave to their sniper back here. That lets him do a +3, gain +3 to his move for 1 turn during a battle. Altogether, I would say that this crew did pretty well. The crew members that they hired seemed to do pretty well with all the troopers and sentries. And that runner did awesome with some of his rolls. They wanted to upgrade him to something better, but they used all their credits on that holographic projector. They just couldn't pass that up. And it'll be interesting to see how that sniper does with those jet boots in their next battle. Their hacker was maybe a bit redundant with all of the tech abilities that System Crash has, and they might be removing him in a future battle, but for now, they'll hang on to him. General Basu's team seemed like they were doing pretty well at the start, but then their forces just kind of got depleted. They were able to just barely pull this data loot and that injured soldier that counts as a physical loot token off the board, kind of hobbling their way off. And they had 3 of their soldiers fall in combat, so we'll start by checking their fate. For the ruffian, a 1 to 4 means he has died, which at least he's a free soldier. The sentry, a 18, he is fine. And for the gunner, 16, he is also fine. So their expensive units are fine. General Basu's team has no after-game powers, but for experience points, they get 30 for participating in the battle, 60 for 6 powers that Basu and Gol'Bloth successfully activated, 40 for unlocking 2 tokens, a physical and a data, 15 for defeating 3 uncontrolled monsters, 2 ruffians and the pirate trooper, and 30 for having at least one of their figures reduced to 0 health. That gave them a total of 175 experience points, so General Basu will increase his level to 16 and lower the activation number for Coordinated Fire down to 9. That seemed to be a pretty useful ability, and that leaves them with 75 experience points left over. For their 2 loot tokens, let's see what they get. Their physical is a 3, and their data is a 4. The 3 for the physical loot is trade goods worth 200 credits, And the 4 for the data loot is a D20 times 15 credits, and that is only 30 credits. General Basu's team recovered a total of 230 credits, combined with the 5 that they had saved up. They used 100 of those to go ahead and heal up their soldier that they'd retrieved from the battle and upgraded him to a Pathfinder. So he will now be joining them in place of that recruit that was injured. And that is all they will do with their money. They'll save 135 credits for next time. I think General Basu's downfall in that battle was splitting up their team. Having sent a few soldiers over to try to recover that data loot token meant a few of his figures almost met their doom. Well, one of them did meet their doom over there. Their forces that were headed to the middle had some unlucky rolls against that one runner, and they weren't able to really do what they wanted to do. They did retrieve their friend, which thematically is really good for them, but we'll see what they do next time, as they will probably try to stay together a little bit more. I want to thank you for watching. If you noticed any rules I got wrong or have any questions about my gameplay, let me and the community know in the comments below, as my goal with these videos is to create an accurate representation of how to play Stargrave. And if you enjoyed this video, you can click like or subscribe so that you can keep up with all the content that I'm creating. I'm Alan with Bricks and Blocks Gaming, and I'll see you on the next video.